Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is LOL, where the left critiques itself and laughs out loud to keep ourselves from crying. I am your host, the Captain Craig Poster Jardula. And with me, of course, is my co-host, my co-pilot of sorts, Jeremy Kuzmarov. He is a professor at Tulsa Community College, and he's also the author of many books. Jeremy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on. This is going to be a fun show. I'm interested to see how it goes. If you haven't heard, now you heard. The Libertarian Party had just wrapped their convention last weekend. It was quite amazing. I was able to go there and cover it with Don DeBar. So we know you got questions and you want answers. So we went all the way to the top of the Libertarian Party. Well, at least the top right now. The chair herself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Angela McArdle to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I actually got to see you walk out of that convention. I mean, actually clock out. When I mean, you had just finally finished your last event and you were walking on out. And I was like, Angela, how you doing? You were pushing your toddler and you were like, yo, I need a minute. I need a second just to reload and whatnot. Tell us how you feel right now.
A little more well-rested than I did at 1 a.m. on Sunday night. Yeah, we had a wild convention, and as wild as that was, it was just the start of the political clownery and strategy that I am unrolling over the next 5 months.
Yeah, you know, I thought you had a hard job, and, you know, I talked to everybody at that convention. I even talked to the old chair, who seems to have some issues with you, and Nick Sarwalk, but I talked to members who weren't crazy about you. But to tell you the truth, a lot of the members who didn't vote for you were still supporting you. And I really found that kind of cool about the Libertarian Party, because when it gets bad blood in the Democratic Party, it can get really, really bad. People exit, they get on out. But there were libertarians there who might have had an issue with you for a little bit, but really they were supporting you. What do you say to that?
I appreciate the support. I mean, I tried to chair that convention fairly. I didn't play favorites. There were certainly times where I was tempted to play favorites, and I just didn't do it. And I maintained composure, and it didn't matter if people screamed obscenities at me when they get upset at the way things are going. I just did it by the book. And Sunday was a 16-hour day. We started at 9 a.m. We finished at 1 a.m. We were up before, you know, we were up after. It was a very, very long day. And I tried to just extend people patience and grace and help them move through business and facilitate.
You know, if there's any lesson to be learned, I think, and that is from the Democrats when they throw their conventions, I think they handle their business up front and then party hardy after. If there's anything that you've learned for it, would that be a good one, that maybe we should have gone into picking our nominations and all that stuff first so it wasn't such a lag? Because there were people literally grabbing their suitcases that they had with them on the convention floor and leaving. Didn't even get a chance to cast a vote because they had to get on a plane. What do you say to that?
Well, you know, what I say to that is I advised everybody to stay till Monday. I knew that it was likely going to go very long. We would have at least 5 presidential ballots. I believe we had 7 in the end. And business is not going to finish at 5 p.m. on Sunday. Now, I was hoping that we would wrap it by 8 p.m., but it went till 1 a.m., you know. But regardless, like, you need to stay the full weekend.
Yeah. But one of my favorite announcements is when you were holding the phone and you had a gala plan. And there were some ladies there that were all dressed up to the ball, but no place to go. It was kind of crazy. You said, listen, the hotel has notified us that they have now plated 200 plates of food. And they're not going to redo that. So if you guys are going to miss it, then oh well. And you went about your business and you were eating pizza instead.
Yeah, there's this meme circulating of this guy, Alex Merced, who chaired the 2020 convention. At the beginning of the convention, he looks all polished. And at the end, his hair is like insane. And he's always like stressed out and frazzled. And so I didn't do Alex Merced hair, but I did have pizza. You know, I had a pizza and a toddler at the end. It was just like, you know.
So let's talk about the convention, because for me, obviously, I was covering it as a journalist, right? I thought I saw an opportunity where a lot of independent media personality weren't jumping on the chance to do so. Thank you so much for all the credentials and the access to your party. And I got some amazing interviews. I talked to so many different people. But I was asking a question to a lot of people. I even had a chance to sit down with the New Hampshire Twitter page handler, Jeremy Kaufman. And I said to him, is there a place for me as a leftist, anti-imperialist in your party? What are your thoughts to that right now as we kind of close? Because you've kind of opened up this party and had a bigger tent where some members are like, no, 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 you believe in Medicare for all. That goes against the private property belief we have. you can't be a libertarian. You tell me, do I have a place in your party?
I think you do. I mean, we want people who agree with us on economics and positions of leadership, but we want to open the party broadly to people who mostly agree with us in most areas. And it's okay if somebody doesn't agree 100%. Like, we just want you to be close enough, and we want you to certainly feel welcome at our events and to do issue coalitions with us and to work on things where we agree. You know, we want to be welcoming.
But you just said there that only positions of party of leadership, you want them to be economically aligned. Does that mean, as a leftist libertarian, if I join the party, I can't run for chair when you're ready to retire one day?
Well, I mean, maybe if you were to change some of your economic positions, like, we don't want the party's platform to become out of alignment with libertarianism, if that makes sense. But we want you to be welcome. Like, we want you at our events. We want you participating. We want you doing cool anti-war stuff with us. Like, we love that.
Professor, you have a question? Well, go ahead. I mean, I wasn't at the convention. I mean, are there many leftists who actually, because I think there is a strong strand of libertarianism on the left, especially with regard to, social issues. So, what is the, right now, I mean, do you have many leftists in the party who would disagree with you, say, on Medicare, but are against the drug war, against the, massive government war budget?
Well, the problem is we do have people who are on the left in the party, but they are more culturally on the left. And so it's more like wokeism, that sort of version of leftism. It's not necessarily like European left libertarianism.
Mm-hmm.
It is easier to work with people who are on the left outside of the party right now than it is people who are card-carrying members and who are on the left inside.
Mm-hmm. And what is your goal for this election? I mean, there's a huge opportunity with the disaffection of the public for the two-party system. What are you hoping to achieve in this cycle?
Grow the party. Really, really hurt Joe Biden because he's very vulnerable right now. Stick it to him. Go viral doing it. Force the Trump campaign to be better and deliver on its promises for us.
You mentioned just recently, too, about the left being the woke left, right? Like, not the woke, but the cultural issues. And there's leftists like myself and Jeremy who aren't part of that whole culture issue. We consider us leftist because we are anti-imperialist. You guys are anti-interventionist. Either way, I think it still works. We still have the same tactic, like, get out of people's countries, let them live, let them thrive, let them take care of their own goods and services. We're for freedom of the press. Obviously, Julian Assange and Edward Snowden there. I got my free Ross sign right over here. Hold on, let me grab it. That was really, really big. The Ross Ulbricht here, free Ross. They're all over my house. And we are also about some of our civil liberties. We're free speech absolutist. Where do you think that we do have a lot of, can you explain some of the economics differences between the common sense leftists like myself and you and some of the members of the Mises Caucus?
Sure. And I think, as far as I can tell, it's really only economics where we differ. I think that we both have a healthy distrust of corporations. I think that is actually a good thing. We do not, revere corporate institutions as though there's some, God on earth come to save humanity. But we also really are distrustful of regulatory capture. And we are distrustful that government, with all of its flaws and the things that it rolls out horribly, would be able to roll out a government healthcare system or anything that's centralized. We're just inherently distrustful of it. We've not seen it happen, in recent history with any population this large. And so we just prefer to support individual rights and let individuals make their own economic choices.
I think there's a big misconception about libertarians, and I know a lot of people who are driving their car in New York listening to this will be like, "Oh my God, libertarians! They don't want Medicare for all. They lack compassion." But I think that what I've learned, for me, when I put my libertarian cap on, and I think the way a libertarian does, it kind of helps me reach a compromise, understanding that too much power in one hand, the government will always be bad and will be bad for the individuals, and libertarians don't want to just put rules into place so they can enrich themselves. They actually want to beat back down against the corporation, against the oligarchs, against those in power and strength. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. I mean, the problem is that large corporations, most of them now, work in lockstep with government, and they've carved out entitlement programs for themselves that none of the rest of us are privy to. And so, you know, it's not like the same as an individual person walking around. Large corporates, you know, they take advantage of monopolies that are given to them by the government. They engage in pay-to-play schemes. For example, large oil companies, they don't care if they destroy the environment because they can just pay a fine. You and I, if we dumped, you know, billions of gallons of oil into the Gulf Coast, we'd go to prison. It's not the same for a corporation.
So let's talk about the candidate that came out of the convention. First off, I'd like to say that, you know, there was a lot of people out there who are going, oh, this guy's a plant. It's COINTELPRO. There's CIA ops and stuff. I'm sure there's some COINTELPRO members that are running around the Libertarian Party. I'm positive of it because it is the largest, you know, third party in the nation. It is the third party is what I like to call it as. But sometimes when a guy who knocks on the most doors, your presidential candidate, who's not a Mises Caucus member, Chase Oliver, he went to all 50 states. He did a lot of great work. He ran for senator in Georgia, got 81,000 votes, forced a recall. And here's something else that a lot of people aren't mentioning coming out of this convention. In my personal opinion, and I know Jamie Cheeseslice, who is the engineer of the show right now, we agree that Chase Oliver also won the debate. For me, being a Democrat, an ex-Democrat of sorts, and understanding that everything you see in front of you, every single election, whether it be for delegates, president, whatever, is always fixed. The outcome is already known. You're fighting against the establishment. To me, this was golden because it was the best representation of democracy I've seen. Yeah, it was 7 rounds, but it was great the way you guys do your system. It's like kind of like a form of ranked choice voting, not exactly. But it's still a lot more democratic. The process is that self. Can't we just sit here and agree that sometimes that the guy who does the most work, who worked the hardest, will get the nomination? Isn't it fair to say that about Chase Oliver, Angela?
Totally. He worked really hard. He went to all 50 states. He definitely campaigned, you know, and he got it in the 7th round. And like you said, people left early. His people didn't.
Yeah.
They stayed.
Yeah, and he won that debate. Nobody's talking about the debate. And I don't want to mention, I think that, you know, the Libertarian Mises Caucus favorite was Mike Rechtenwald. He had led most of the rounds. There was a moment on Saturday night. He had that kind of Joe Biden moment. It got fleshed out. I think that hurt him. I don't want to hold that against him because I'm a herb user myself. But time and place, right? So, I mean, that's true. But there is this misconception, though, Angela, because somebody who's pretty popular in the Libertarian Party made a tweet, and it said, I think this whole weekend was a big conspiracy to get me to vote for Donald Trump. And I kind of retweeted and said, this is weird because I thought this whole weekend was a big conspiracy to get me to vote for Chase Oliver. And why am I acting more libertarian than the libertarians? I mean, there is this misconception that he's this woke candidate, that if he gets elected president, he's going to be handing out transition pills all over the place and there's going to be surgeries to have trans kids. That's just not the case. We've interviewed him. We've talked to him. He just has a strong libertarian value where they believe that the parents should make the decision when it comes to the children. Is that not a fair assessment of Chase Oliver?
I think that's a fair assessment. I love hearing this. I love hearing this because I said that Chase is going to appeal more to the left. People were offended. And I was like, you don't think that it's worthwhile to appeal to the left? Well, perfect.
He will appeal to the left because he's part of the LGBT community, right? I think there's like a lot of leftists that will vote for him just simply because of that, because there's people who are not that involved in the echo chamber when it comes to politics. So they will vote for him for that. But that, as a leftist, that's not why I'm voting for him.
Sure.
I still believe that he's the most anti-war candidate out there, right? He has simply got things wrong before. I mean, the things that upset me about Chase Oliver is when he kind of snickered at Donald Trump getting deplatformed. I didn't like that. I'm like, wait a second. You're a libertarian. Where's your values there? He wasn't on where he needed to be out of the gate, but he came around, it seems, when it came to mandates. I don't think he would ever force mandates. In other words, I think that Chase Oliver's views are different than his ideology. And just like any libertarian, they're going to stick to their ideology. For crying out loud, I asked him if there should be a ban on gain of function, and he's like, the government shouldn't ban anything. We got to look to free market forces. Like, I put that question out there to show, like, this guy is not going to go with his views. He's going to go with his ideology.
Yep.
Jeremy, do you have any questions you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I mean, what are many of your supporters going for Trump in this election? And I mean, some of Trump's policies seem totally antithetical, like, you know, as far as the drug war. I mean, he embraces big government in so many ways, whether it's the drug war, whether it's, you know, tariffs. So what is the mood in the party, and what is your position on Trump in general?
Well, I haven't endorsed Trump. I've endorsed Chase. I am going to continue to stay on really friendly terms with the Trump campaign, though, because they have made some campaign promises for us. And that's a really incredible thing. That's never happened in the history of the Libertarian Party. And I think it would behoove me to follow through and maintain a good relationship with them. I think that a lot of people are having a really negative reaction to Chase, and they are going to spite vote for Donald Trump, or they're going to vote for Trump based on the campaign promises he made. Now, we all know politicians are not very good at following through on campaign promises. So we'll see what happens. But even getting the promise was a really big deal. So, you know, I just kind of have to navigate it carefully, try to make everybody feel like they have a place in the party. I think that the Chase Oliver campaign is a great way to target people who are on the left, to wreck Joe Biden's campaign, and to do it in a fun way, because we need more fun, especially after the last like 6 months of just kind of like negative energy in the LP. And at the same time, for people who don't want to support Chase and they don't want to work on his campaign, I say stay in the LP, join the LP if you haven't joined it yet, because we are the most powerful political voting bloc in the country right now. We have gotten the Trump campaign to make concessions to us directly, to come to our convention and speak to us. That's never happened before. That shows how significant we are. So join us and help us maintain that relevance.
And what are those promises that he's made, if you're allowed to say?
Sure. Oh, yeah. They were very public. He would free Ross Ulbricht on day one. Free Ross Ulbricht. He said that he would put a libertarian in a cabinet position. He said he would abolish the Department of Education. It's very important for us at the federal level. He also said there would be no vaccine mandates in any federally funded schools. He spoke to like 10 of our issues. So I thought that was pretty huge, you know?
So here's the thing I can't understand, and I don't want to beat up on people who aren't here to defend themselves. There are friends of mine, right, that I know the way they're acting right now. I'm a little confused. Like, you still have a party to run. You're encouraging people to join the party. Yes. 2028 is going to come around. Yes. And a lot of the Mises Caucus members who are kind of turning their nose on Chase, talking about voting for Donald Trump and whatnot, they're going to have some blowback. And libertarians should know the word blowback, because Ron Paul was at your convention, and that is a very serious word. Why isn't it things just handled by, I know you can only do so much, Angela. I know you're not Wonder Woman. But why aren't things just being handled behind closed doors? We're yelling and screaming, we're shaking hands, but we're coming out of this thing a united party. I think it would benefit a lot of Mises Caucus members, despite you guys having so much power with the national board and everything. You have so many seats, and you know, obviously you are the bulk of the party right now that holds a lot of powerful positions. But why not just, you know, kind of shake hands behind closed doors and come out, you know, a unit together, a team? You know what I'm saying? So therefore, yeah, it will, you can reap the benefits, and everybody will remember, hey, listen, they didn't win the ticket in 2024, but they still got behind us. Now it's our turn to do that for them. Don't you see this as a missed opportunity right now?
Well, that's what I'm encouraging people to do. I'm saying, even if you don't want to support the Chase campaign, there's a ton of work that can be done in the party. And there's a ton of other like awesome, fun stuff going on too. And it's fun for everybody who's more culturally on the right. Don't you want to troll the Biden campaign and wreck it? You know, like I've been memeing it, like, get in, loser, we're stopping Joe Biden. You know, it's really fun. And I wish there was less infighting in the Libertarian Party, but it is a phenomenon that has existed in the party far beyond the existence of the Mises Caucus. It goes back decades, you know, with Murray Rothbard, with the Kochs in the 80s. You know, everybody thinks we get Koch money. No, they rage quit the party in the 80s. It's just libertarians love to fight over their differences. It's the narcissism of small differences. It's purity testing. It's all of that stuff. I think it'll probably stick around as long as the party exists. So I just have to find ways to work around it and try to keep people happy.
Yeah, you have an impossible task there, young lady. It's so hard because when I see what's going on, like really to tell you the truth, like I feel like calling some of those people up going, you know, you got me to go over there, you cover this, you got me to talk libertarian values, you got me to think like a libertarian. And now with this whole situation, when you have a fair situation, like I said, the guy who knocks on the most doors sometimes is going to win. Learn from it. You know what I'm saying? We all know what happened in this party for those who are paying attention. A lot of people thought that Dave Smith was going to run for president. He dragged his feet. He said no. You had to pick in another candidate. A lot of people weren't crazy about that candidate and Mike Rechtenwald. I mean, I was excited to see him get the nomination because I thought, you know, with powerful voices like Dave Smith, like Clint Russell, who almost won the vice president, that this was going to be great. We're going to learn about libertarianism. We're going to teach the nation. We're going to find a way that we can compromise right now, you know, with our ideologies and our politics. So for me, it's a little disappointing to see what's going on. And I hope some people really just, you know, look in the mirror, shake it off, understand you're lost, handle it like a gentleman or a female or a lady, and just shake your opponent's hands and say, let's get to work. New York, people are listening to this show right now in New York. Is the Libertarian Party going to be on the ballot in New York? Yes, no, and if not, why?
It's a maybe right now. So the signature gathering threshold is the highest, and it's higher than anywhere else in the country. And we actually did meet the requirement for ballot access back in 2018. Larry Sharp did it in his gubernatorial run. And then they raised the signature requirement again threefold. And it's really challenging. Diane Sayre has been, I think, the only one previously to meet this threshold. It's just really difficult. And so we're waiting to find out right now, actually. We won't know for maybe a week or two if we made it, but we did turn in signatures.
I've got a question. Yeah, many of our listeners may be more on the left. So you mentioned abolishing the Department of Federal Education. Could you explain or try and convince our listeners how that would benefit education in the United States?
Sure. So the Federal Department of Education, I believe, came into existence with the Carter administration. It has not existed in perpetuity, you know, along with other agencies. Since its creation, the quality of education has declined. There's a very strong correlation. You can see it. We are not strong in STEM anymore in the United States. We come in way down the line. You know, there are a lot of other countries, you know, China and India, who outcompete us in education. I think that we need to take a different approach with education. We need to put it back in the hands of local communities. Tax dollars for education should not be taken and sent all the way to DC and then, you know, put in their bureaucratic machine and sent back to administrators and bureaucrats. It should be teachers and students. There's no room for Washington, DC and local education.
What area is Chase Oliver lacking when it comes to getting those conservatives that you talked about, the ones who are considering voting for Trump? For what reason? Where is he lacking? And he's not more conservative or a little bit more, not as much friendly, I should say, to the libertarian values as Donald Trump. In other words, why would a libertarian say, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump over Chase Oliver?
Well, you know, there are some things that he's said about child transition, you know, puberty blockers that our people have been upset with. There have been things that he's said about mask mandates and social distancing, you know, that people were not happy about. And when it comes to that, a lot of people will say, well, it's about personal choice. He talks about how you can be responsible. And a lot of libertarians, and I think people who lean right, they want to own the narrative and they care about optics, which means they don't want to hear about how you social distance and it was your choice and whatever. Like, Fauci's basically on trial right now for making it all up. And they want someone who's been right on it and consistent all along and cuts through the social pressure of it and just says, nope, it's not okay. It's BS. It's junk science. It was absolutely oppressive and a horrendous precedent to set in the United States. Well, that's what we want. Yeah.
As we have to close the show right now and get you out of here, but you know, as we do close the show, he might have been personally for masking and distancing, but he would have never had a mandate out there. He has libertarian ideologies. I mean, again, when it comes to the children and the transition thing, it's not about him saying that he's going to make sure that everybody can transition. He says it's up to the parents. He's a libertarian in my mind. I don't understand how people can get that confused. Thank you so much, Angela McArdle, for joining the show today. I am Craig Pasta Jardula with Jeremy Kozmaroff, the professor. This is LOL, where the left critiques itself and laughs out loud to keep from crying. We'll see you on the flip side. We're out.